The indomitable USS Iowa, armed with massive 16-inch guns, unleashed 2,700-pound shells, striking fear into enemies up to 23 miles away. With her devastating arsenal, including 20 5-inch guns and over 50 anti-aircraft weapons, USS Iowa stood as an impregnable fortress. In 1943, the global war raged on, and USS Iowa was in the middle of the Atlantic, escorting President Roosevelt and the Chief of Staff to the Tehran Conference. All of a sudden, Iowa's steady course shifted, and the vessel violently braced for impact. A torpedo was on the loose, and heading straight for the President's escort ship, a close call in the midst of a crisis. From her inception under War Plan Orange to her indomitable presence in the Korean War, this battleship epitomized unwavering strength and determination. War Plan Orange. The United States Navy Iowa-class battleships resulted from War Plan Orange, a series of Army and Navy plans envisioned to deal with an eventual war with the Empire of Japan. The plans dated back to the early 20th century, but rose in importance during the 1930s, when Japan invaded Manchuria and began to expand across the South Pacific. The plan called for a fast detachment of the battle line that could bring the Japanese fleet into battle. The U.S. Navy's traditional 21-knot battle line was too slow to force Japanese task forces into battle. In contrast, faster carriers and their cruiser escorts would be outmatched by Imperial Japanese Kongo-class battlecruisers. The Iowa-class battleships were designed to achieve speeds of over 30 knots to counter this threat. The Second London Naval Treaty's escalator clause, which allowed for an increase in gun caliber limit, also played a role in the design of these battleships. Preliminary studies for the Iowa-class battleships began in 1938 under Admiral Thomas C. Hart from the General Board of the U.S. Navy. By the end of the year, the contract design was almost complete, but would evolve at the New York Navy Yard, the lead shipyard, entering the final design phase. Iowa-class rises. USS Iowa was the lead ship of her class. She was ordered in July 1939 and laid down at the New York Naval Shipyard in June 1940 under hull number BB61. She was launched in August 1942, sponsored by the wife of Vice President Henry Wallace. USS Iowa was 860 feet long with a beam of 108 feet. Her draft was 37 feet at full load, displacing over 57,540 long tons. The dimensions of the class were tailored for speed. The ship featured a triple button under the armored citadel and armored skegs around the inboard shafts. The Iowa-class battleships were armed with 9 16-inch 50-caliber Mark 7 naval guns, which could fire high-explosive and armor-piercing shells with a range of up to 23.4 nautical miles. The weight of the projectiles ranged from 1,900 to 2,700 pounds and traveled at speeds of up to 2,500 feet per second. One projectile could spend more than a minute in flight before striking the intended target. The guns were housed in 3 3-gun turrets, each weighing up to 267,900 pounds and requiring a crew of 85 to 110 men to operate. The turrets were individually steered and could be elevated and fired independently. The Mark 38 gun fire control system was used for fire control, while the Mark 8 Rangekeeper was used to compute firing solutions. This was only part of its formidable range of weapons. Devastating arsenal. Iowa's secondary battery comprised 20 5-inch 38-caliber Mark 12 guns in 10 enclosed base ring mounts. Each gun, including its mount, weighed over 156,300 pounds. The Mark 12 could fire shells at about 2,500 feet per second and accurately shoot down enemy aircraft flying at 13,000 feet. The Mark 12 was a dual-purpose gun for striking surface and air targets. Iowa's anti-air battery comprised 20 quad 40mm and 49 single Oerlikon 20mm gun mounts that were extremely effective against Japanese fighters. The ship's all-or-nothing armor scheme was designed to give a zone of immunity against 16-inch projectiles between 18,000 to 30,000 yards. From the turrets to the citadel and other critical areas, Iowa was a floating fortress, ready to withstand the impact of any hostile ship that dared to step in her way. The power plant consisted of 8 Babcock and Wilcox boilers and 4 sets of double-reduction cross-compound geared turbines. The plant propelled the ship to a maximum speed of 37.4 miles per hour, providing an estimated range of 15,900 nautical miles. Iowa also had 2 aircraft catapults to launch float planes for reconnaissance and search and rescue operations. In the post-war period, she was modified to accommodate helicopters. However, during her long service history, she saw a wide range of missions. Pacific War Service. USS Iowa was commissioned in February 1943 under the orders of Captain John L. McCrae. The first cruise took the ship and her crew of more than 2,500 men to the Atlantic coast, where the German battleship Tirpitz was rumored to be hunting down Allied vessels. In November 1943, Iowa took President Roosevelt and the Chief of Staff to Mers el-Kabir, Algeria, for the Tehran Conference. The president's cabin was fitted with a special bathtub, necessary given his paralysis. During the trip to Algeria, the destroyer William G. Porter accidentally discharged a torpedo that headed straight for Iowa. The colossal battleship violently turned, and the torpedo detonated in her wake, but the damage was minimal, and the president did not suffer any injury. Following the conference, Iowa returned Roosevelt to the U.S. in December 1943. Iowa departed for the Pacific in January 1944, when she entered combat during the Marshall Islands campaign. As part of Task Group 58-3, she provided carrier support against the Kwajalein and Eniwetok atolls. In February, USS Iowa and her sister ship, New Jersey, sank the Japanese light cruiser Katori after it had escaped Truk in the Caroline Islands. Days later, the battleship was assigned to Fast Carrier Task Force and bombed Mealy Atoll in the Marshalls. Iowa was struck by 2 120mm projectiles. Her armor was enough protection. In March, she rejoined TF-58 and supported airstrikes against Woliai and the Palau Islands. The post-war. Weeks later, the restless crew supported more air raids on Wake Island, Hollandia, and Iatape as Army forces secured them from Japanese incursions. During the last days of April, Iowa once again fired her powerful main battery to strike Truk a second time. During the initial stage of the Mariana Islands campaign, USS Iowa provided critical protection to aircraft carriers as they attacked Saipan, Guam, and the Pagan Islands. Afterward, Iowa was cleared to fire her 16-inch guns on Japanese facilities on Saipan and Tinian in June 1944. Shortly after, the colossal battleship participated in the Battle of the Philippine Sea, which crippled the Imperial Navy for the rest of the war. During the engagements, Iowa repelled 4 devastating Japanese air raids, destroying 3 fighter aircraft and 2 torpedo planes during the ongoing pursuit. Iowa then supported the Marine landings at Peleliu and other Navy vessels on the Ryukyu Islands. In December, Task Force 58 and Iowa were caught by Typhoon Cobra. This tropical cyclone sank several ships and damaged one of Iowa's shafts. USS Iowa returned to the fight in April 1945 to attack Okinawa and other islands that were on Japanese soil. She rose to notoriety after becoming the flagship of Admiral Halsey for Japan's surrender ceremony on September 2, 1945. Pictures from the Japanese surrender aboard Iowa instantly made her one of the most recognizable warships of the U.S. Navy during World War II. Korean War Service. During the post-war period, the main battery of Iowa was adapted to fire the W-23 nuclear artillery shell, a modified W-19 tailored exclusively for the 16-inch guns. This capability made the ship the world's largest nuclear artillery. The W-23 weighed 1,900 pounds and had a yield that ranged from 15 to 20 kilotons of TNT. The nuclear shells would remain in service with the Iowa class until 1991, when the U.S. retired them from the country's nuclear artillery inventory. In July 1951, Iowa was recommissioned to participate in the Korean War. She arrived in March 1952 to relieve her sister ship, USS Wisconsin. She opened fire near Wonsan Songjin on April 8, 1952, striking communist supply lines and disrupting enemy logistics. For the next months, the battleship and her crew provided artillery support to advancing United Nations and South Korean troops, firing against gun emplacements, railroads, and enemy positions. In late May, Iowa crossed the 38th parallel and commenced attacking North Korean cities where industrial centers were located. Tanchon, Chongjin, Chodo, and the port of Hungnam were some of the areas attacked by Iowa to support United Nations troops. Iowa's last combat action occurred in October 1952. She was the flagship of General Mark W. Clark. She conducted 43 gun strikes across Korea, firing over 16,000 rounds from her 2 batteries, earning the United Nations Service Medal and the Korean Service Medal. Unexpected explosion. Following the end of the Korean War, USS Iowa participated in several naval exercises with NATO forces before being decommissioned in 1958. USS Iowa was recommissioned in 1982 and modernized during Reagan's presidency. The number of guns and gun mounts was reduced from 20 to 12 to make room for Tomahawk missiles, radar, and fire control system upgrades. During the 1991 Persian Gulf War, these guns were mainly used for littoral defense, manned by a detachment of Marines aboard the ship. In 1989, USS Iowa suffered a tragic accident when one of her gun turrets exploded, taking the lives of 47 sailors. The cause of the explosion is still being debated today. Following the conflict in the Middle East, Iowa was decommissioned in October 1990, after almost 20 years of service. In 2012, USS Iowa became a museum ship at Los Angeles waterfront. Thank you for watching our video. Please like and subscribe to our Dark Seas channel for more content about other vessels that made history, and check out our other dark documentaries. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified of our newest videos.